So we heard the story from Craig this morning from Matthew's gospel. And let's be honest, Matthew is not everybody's favorite preacher. If the four gospel writers were on a Sunday preaching schedule and I saw Matthew's name penciled in, I might consider checking the weather and deciding maybe it's a good day to worship privately at home. Of course, none of you would ever do that, right? Some of y'all are laughing a little too loud. My goodness. So Matthew's world is it's so divided, it's so categorical, so certain. You're a sheep or you're a goat. You're a wheat or you're a weed. A wise young woman with lamp oil or a foolish one left out in the dark. And if you show up pretending to be something you're not, if you're wearing the wrong costume to the wrong party, then brace yourself. Matthew's not just annoyed, he's ready to point hypocrite and worse. Matthew is the kind of preacher who'd be very comfortable behind an old wooden pulpit in a hot southern church, the kind where the windows are open and the fans are working overtime and still you sweat. Fire and brimstone, we call it. And Matthew leans into that. For him, hell is not abstract. It's real, it's hot, and it's full. A smoldering trash heap, he tells us, where the hypocrites grind their teeth in fury and regret. Maybe like some Penn State fans last night, I don't know. Too soon? Luke mentions the dump once, but Matthew keeps circling back, feeding the flames with evildoers, unfaithful managers, and lazy servants, and one poor soul who was just too paralyzed by fear to invest a single coin. Now, I'm not saying Jesus didn't say these things. I'm just saying Matthew is very enthusiastic about telling them. Take today's parable. A king throws a wedding banquet. The A-list is invited, but they all say no. Worse, they mock the invitation and even murder the messengers. The king, justifiably outraged, puts the roast back in the oven, calls up the troops, and levels the entire city. And when you think, well, that escalated quickly, he fills the banquet with strangers, people from the sidewalks, the shelters, the garages, the restaurants. Everyone is in. But then there's one man without a wedding robe. The king spots him, approaches him, and calls him friend, but the tone suggests something more like Mr. or Buster. And the man is speechless. He has no excuse. And then, as Matthew tends to do, the story pivots hard, bind him hand and foot, throw him into the outer darkness. So no, Matthew isn't always easy to hear. Sometimes we might wish for Luke with his gracious Jesus who welcomes prodigals and eats with sinners, or Mark who moves so fast there's barely time to notice what's missing. I love Mark. But today it's Matthew's turn to preach. And while he may set our teeth on edge, he still speaks gospel. It's the gospel according to Matthew, his voice, yes, but the same good news. So if we can stay with him long enough, maybe there's something here for us, something honest, maybe something liberating. Here's a strange place to start. A dream I've had more than once. Often, really. Maybe you've had it too. In one version, I've just remembered I'm enrolled in a college class that I've never attended. It's usually advanced physics or some sort of math, something I should have dropped but didn't. The final is tomorrow, and I have no notes. I scramble to find a textbook. I stay up all night, but the formulas swim on a page like a fish. And when I walk into the exam room, the professor looks at me and says, "And who are you?" Or try this one. I show up to church on a Friday of all days, and there's a hearse out front. I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, just stopped by for a minute. I walk in, and there's a whole crowd of people dressed for a funeral. One of them comes to me grief-stricken, and I don't recognize them. I'm supposed to lead the service, but I don't know who died. Maybe you have your own version of that dream. The particulars vary, but the feeling is the same. You're somewhere you don't belong. You're underprepared, underdressed, exposed. Everyone is watching, and this time, they see through you. The imposter has been found out. Your worst fears have been realized. You've been hiding all this. You're not sure you belong. You're not sure you're good enough, and now it's confirmed. You don't, and you aren't. And here's what Matthew's gospel gets absolutely right. That feeling is familiar. Too familiar. The king approaches the man in the parable without a robe and says, "Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment?" And the man has nothing to say. It's one of those dreams. And that's what this is. A parable, yes, but almost like a dream, a surreal space that invites us to not to analyze, but to enter. Barbara Brown Taylor once said that parables are not puzzles to be solved. They're stories we walk around in. They change as we change. That's what's happening here. This isn't a story about how God is irrational or cruel. It's a story that knows what it feels like to be called out, confronted, to be found wearing the wrong clothes at the wrong moment in the wrong place. It knows what it feels like to live a double life. Because most of us do one way or another. The you project. The you protect. The polished you. The panicked you. The anxious you. The scared you. The confident voice at work. And the fragile voice that whispers at night, "You don't belong here. You're never going to be good enough." Matthew's word for it is hypocrite. And he uses it often, especially for people who use their religious status to exploit others, leaders who preyed on the vulnerable, people who looked righteous but were hollowed out inside. That's the kind of hypocrite, the kind of two-ness we're used to in the Bible. But there's another kind of two-ness just as real, not rooted in arrogance, but rooted in fear. This is the person who looks put together but feels like a mess, who earns a good salary but lives with a heart full of scarcity, who checks every box but is just waiting for someone to say, "You don't belong here." That kind of hypocrisy, the kind born not of pride but of shame, is just as deadly and far more common. We're always afraid we're going to be found out one way or the other. Exposed for not being smart enough, good enough, talented enough, cool enough, put together enough. The outer darkness, it's no surprise. It's where we always feared we'd end up anyway. But see, here's where the story turns. Because as terrifying as it is to be exposed, to be found out, there's also a sort of deep relief in it. Because once someone sees the real you, the pretense can end. The striving, the managing, the double life, it can stop. It can be exhausted leading that double life. There's a new show out on Hulu called Chad Powers. Anyone seen Chad Powers yet? Just me? All right. I've been exposed as someone who watches shows no one else watches. So, okay, the show is based on this viral sketch that Eli Manning did a few years ago as part of Eli's Places. He puts on makeup and a wig and goes to Penn State and tries out for a walk-on for their football team. And he calls himself Chad Powers. And people are like, "Wow, you seem like 40, but you're here at college." And he, is a kind of weird character trying out for the football team. And they make this whole show on it. And there's this guy who kind of ruined his college career at the end of the national championship game 7 years earlier. He's kind of a wash-up nothing. He wants more than anything to be recognized again, to have purpose again. So he comes up with this idea of putting on all this makeup and hair and going to a school whose mascot happens to be the catfish and pretend to be someone he's not to play football. And every second, it's this awkward thing of trying not to be found out. His nose is falling off. There's a fly coming out of his makeup. His water's leaking because he had to get in a pool. It's this constant fear of what if I'm found out? And it's exhausting for him. It's almost exhausting for the watcher as your anxiety goes up with him. There's this real idea of sometimes when you can just tell someone sees the true you. There's a relief to it. Finally, I can just be me. And now, maybe for the first time, wholeness is possible. That's the strange mercy in Matthew's parable. The king notices. He does not let the man go unnoticed. Someone has cared enough to approach, to confront, to ask, what's really going on with you? That moment, uncomfortable though it is the beginning of salvation. Because when someone sees us fully, without flinching, something breaks open. The act is over and grace can finally begin. You know how when watching a movie or a TV show, you just want to yell at the characters sometime? Don't go in there, just tell her the truth. It's that part in the Hallmark movie when there's a misunderstanding between the ruggedly handsome guy from the small Montana town and the put-together woman from New York who's focused too much on business. And there's a misunderstanding, and you say, no, it's going to be okay. He didn't really mean it like that. You're misunderstanding. They never listen to you. We know what's coming. We wish they'd change course before it's too late, but they can't see it because they're inside the story. And so often, so are we. And sometimes it takes someone else, someone who really loves us enough to tell us the truth, to tell us to stop, to interrupt the story, to say, you don't have to keep pretending. You don't have to be two. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a stranger, maybe it's a terrifying Matthew or a tender Jesus. But when that person appears, when someone dares to see us clearly and still stand beside us, it can change everything. It pops the lock. It opens the door to the banquet we were too ashamed to believe was really for us. So the question becomes, who is that person for you? And maybe even more, who could you be that person for? Who in your life is living a divided story, looking whole on the outside but afraid of being seen? Who needs someone gently but truthfully to say, friend, where's your robe? You belong here, but come here honestly. This is our gospel, our parable, our story. And if it feels like a dream, then maybe it's God's dream, a dream where all the guests, they finally arrive, where no one is left outside, and where at long last the music starts and everyone has a place at the table and dances into the night. So come to this table. Come as you are in wholeness. Come as you are, putting your fears aside, your anxieties aside. Come with all of who you are. Don't try to hide those bits away. Bring them with you. Take off the mask and receive what God wants to give you, which is faith and grace and hope and love and a peace that passes understanding, and salvation that comes from being able to be comfortable with who you are and the wholeness that brings.